Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of FF Champs After Dark. I am your host, Jim Day. You can find me on Twitter at FantasyTaz. We are a proud member of the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network, and we got a great show for you. Of course, my co-host, Mr. Andy Singleton, is here. Andy, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, Jim. I'm happy to get going again. Friday night, a lot going on. Ton of stuff going on. The Antonio Brown news breaking today, of course. I don't know if anybody wants to hear any more about that, but I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit.
A little bit.
I just love that my fidgetiness agitates you. So I know you're dealing with a migraine. I don't know what you've talked about today. You're on 17 shows a week. So I don't know what you have left to discuss, but we have Jon Helmcamp joining us tonight, who writes for me for expandtheboxscore.com. He has come up with this rush rating system that basically tells you everything you need to know about running backs each week. So we're going to get into that in a little bit when we bring Jon out and let him introduce himself more. But you take it away. You steer the ship. I will do whatever you need me to do.
Well, let's just go right to Jon. Mr. Jon Helmcamp, again, writes for Expand the Box Score, does plenty of other things. He's actually a published author as well. Jon, introduce yourself to our audience. Tell them a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to dive right into your rush rating because I'm really intrigued and want to hear some more.
Yeah, absolutely. Jon Helmcamp, loving working for Expand the Box Score and getting things going over there. Working with Andy's been a blast. Married, got 2 kids, as he indicated, published author. Just had my first book come out a few months ago, not fantasy football related. So don't look in that section. It's just a fiction novel about kind of fatherhood and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's kind of me, just parenting and writing and trying to juggle it all.
Yeah, that's always the fun part, the juggling part.
Right.
So tell us. I mean, Andy's always talking about your rush rating. I'm really intrigued on what it is and how you developed it. So, give us a nice breakdown
on what it is.
Yeah. Basically, I was developing a tool to kind of track running back success by rush direction. So I broke it down 7 different directions, up the middle, off each guard, off each tackle, and then off each edge, and kind of trying to highlight what different running backs seem to excel in, different areas that they might struggle, kind of showing the efficiency of a running back instead of just the general overall, this person averages 4.2 yards per carry. So trying to give a little bit more in depth in terms of where they're finding success. A lot of that has to do with play calling. A lot of it has to do with the offensive line, but a lot of it is individual skill as well, and wanting to kind of bring that to light to kind of help break down your weekly running back choices.
So let me ask you a question. You said something. You said, you define it by off tackle and then off edge. What's the difference?
Yeah, so the tackle is inside tackle. So you have up the middle, and then the guard would be next. So next slot. So you have kind of all your different offensive linemen running towards the different gaps and then running to the edges as well.
And how does it help fantasy football owners better prepare for, making decisions going forward?
A couple different ways. I like being able to look at these graphs and kind of show that this running back is elite in multiple different categories instead of kind of a one-trick pony, or even not necessarily elite, but not below average. So being able to show that they're finding success every direction they're going is a pretty interesting topic. And then as we start to build more data, my hope is to be able to highlight what the defense that the running back is going against is strong in and weak in. So if this running back excels at running up the middle, and the defense that they're going against has a really strong front 7, and they tend to stack the box and do a really good job at limiting runs, up those middle 3 areas, it might make for a bit of a tricky matchup that week. So that's kind of where I'm looking to take this as we kind of build out the data more.
Okay, go ahead, Andy.
No. Go.
Well, I was going to say, look, I'm not a big stats guy. I mean, I use what I need to define something once in a while, things like that. But I've gotten to a point where I look at all these new metrics that people keep inventing and keep coming up with, and I keep saying to myself, trying to follow all these metrics and use them to guide my fantasy football team is like a freaking full-time job. Yeah. It's like how does the normal fantasy football owner try to go through all these metrics and use them to help their team?
Right. It's obviously tricky. What I love about fantasy football is you can either be as intense and geeked out on it as you want to be, or you can just go, what team do I like? And I'm going to pick the running back for that team and play them. So it's, fantasy football kind of fits all molds, and I love that. My goal is to try and give at least an all-encompassing view of the running back position each week for people going forward. So hopefully everything that you need on a couple key profiles. I tend to stay away from the obvious ones. Like this week, Zeke's going against Miami. I don't have to say anything about that. RB1 for the week. Like, done. Move on. So going a little bit more in depth on some either sleeper picks or some big names that might run into some struggles is kind of where I'm looking to keep my focus.
Yeah, I just wanted to dive in real quick because there's a lot I'd like to add to this, and I want to give you a little background of this system from my perspective, but also just to say that I'm with you, Jim. I'm much more old school. I guys, you both know I do baseball, and I know you hate when I bring this up, but there's the stat guys, and then there's the gut feel guys. I feel like I'm somewhere in between, but I'm much more of a gut guy than a stat guy. The reason I bring all this up is because it's just such a different world that we live in now with all the technology that we have at our fingertips. I fight with guys. I fought with guys in the past, that I work with that, like there's group me's and things like that, and everybody's involved in, and certain people are like, I would never be part of that. And, or Facebook, for instance. And then those are the guys that are now posting 20, 30 times a day. And it's either, you get with the times or you get left behind. And I think that's kind of the reason why we need stuff, like what Jon's doing with a little bit more advanced data. It's available to us. So, it matters. It's relevant. As far as this actual system goes, though, he presented it to me as such, saying, listen, I love what Matt Harmon does with reception perception. He, has really magnified and glorified the wide receiver position. I don't really see anybody doing that for running backs. And I told Jon, I said, listen, I know Joe Holka was doing it at one point for 4 for 4. I know
I remember that. Yeah, right.
I remember my guy Andrew Thomas Jordan was trying to get his own running back system going. But I said, listen, there is definitely not something to the level of reception perception out there. So go for it. Like, let's make this thing what it can be. And he got started with it. We have some great graphics, as Jon will attest. We have, some great guys working at Expand the Box Score now, and they put together, this whole thing, and I'm formatting the thing to look all pretty, and he's putting all the words and time in. And so far through 2 weeks, he's profiled 14 guys. He's told you 7 guys to start, 7 guys to sit. And it doesn't always sound like, really, I should sit this guy, or I should think of other options, or I should start that. And so far, he's 14 for 14. And if you want to throw in Derrick Henry from last night, and, he salvaged his game with the touchdown, everything like that, but he's 15 for 15 right now with this model. And this right now is based off primarily 2018 stats, which is why we don't have rookies that we've been discussing yet.
Yeah, right.
But once we get, we're 2 weeks away from that being 2019 data, where I think Jon is really going to take off with this thing and explode. So it's still new to market, but I mean, I really invite anybody to go take a look at it. Not just because it's a site, that I'm pushing out there and pumping, but really
no,
because,
of course not.
No, but this is really a bona fide, legitimate, like, this is a tool to benefit you and help you each and every week. So,
and I'm all for that. I've seen so many metrics come out, and the one thing I always ask, and this is something that Mike Clay and I go way back on. This is from when he first started with ADOT, and at that time he was doing mostly fantasy before he moved to ESPN. And he came up with ADOT. And I kept asking him, I said, well, how can fantasy owners use ADOT to help them move forward? And that was the one thing he could never answer. Now they have since then come up with a way to actually help. And that's a good thing. I'm not against that kind of thing. But it seems to me when I have guys, and I've seen podcasts or listened to podcasts of guys and they're talking about breakout age, and you know what? I don't care what age a guy breaks out. That means nothing to me. It absolutely, if the guy doesn't come into the league until he's 23, I don't care if he didn't break out until he was 23. None of that matters to me, and it doesn't help me in any way for fantasy.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. What I will tell you is, as he said, in seeing which direction the running backs lean, you can say, well, that has a lot to do with who are their strongest linemen.
No.
Everything like that.
I could see this being a good use. That's why I'm saying. That's why I wanted to ask him, how could it help fantasy owners? And now we're going to put him to the test. I know it's behind a paywall.
No, actually, no, it's not. It's not.
It's not. Okay.
All our content is free. The only thing that's behind the paywall is the actual advanced stats that we have, where you could see things like how the defenses would play against those runs and play calling tendencies and things of that nature.
I'll be honest, I did not realize that. So that's a great bonus. So, folks, you heard it here. Go to Expand the Box or ski this stuff. So, John, we're just going to dive into this. We were going to go through the games, but this is an interest interest to me. I'm sure it's of interest to our listeners. This week's data, this week's game, give us a couple of guys that, most people would expect to want to start at running back this week, but that you say you don't like.
Yeah. I'll go right in with a consensus top 4 overall pick in fantasy football this year, Alvin Kamara in Seattle. That one to me, now listen, it's still Alvin Kamara. I'm not saying bench the guy, but you need to temper your expectations going up a Seattle defense that basically put a stop to James Conner last week, has been very strong to start this year against the run. And anytime that you mix in a new quarterback into the system with Drew Brees now being
two new quarterbacks.
Yeah, we don't even know who's going to see a majority of the snaps. Probably Bridgewater, but you're going to have 2. That's just a bit of a tricky situation to navigate. The offense might look really different. They really seem to have some difficulties against the Rams last week. Now, the Rams have a good defense, but so does Seattle. And Ziggy Ansah looks like he's going to make his appearance this week for the Seahawks. So that could spell some trouble. Running backs, a lot of it has to do with the opportunity to score. And if Teddy Bridgewater is not able to move the ball down the field, Alvin Kamara is going to have a tougher time finding the end zone. So I think that he's looking around an RB2 sort of finish, potentially even a flex spot finish this week.
And I'm with you. Absolutely. I am definitely worried about this New Orleans offense. And I think it's going to be a lot closer to a 50-50 split at quarterback than people realize. Peyton, he loves Taysom Hill for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that he was taking the ball out of a future Hall of Famer's hands to give to him scares me, because now he's got Bridgewater. He's no future Hall of Famer. I think we see a lot of Taysom Hill in this. And to me, that's just terrible. I hate that idea. Quarterbacks need to get into a rhythm. They need to develop timing. They need to be out there and playing. And you keep taking them on and off the field. That's not going to be any good for anybody. So, no. I think all these guys take a major hit for that. Now, give me another running back that isn't really effective because his quarterback went down. You just think that, based on your numbers, even though everybody else thinks he's a good start this week, you don't think he is.
About Alvin Kamara or somebody else?
No, and somebody else. Because with Alvin Kamara, I get it, but there are already so many other signs pointing to him not being what he has been. That to me, I don't want to say it's obvious, but it's a little more obvious just because of the change of QB.
Yeah. Another running back that I am not very high on this week, in particular, Kerryon Johnson, who I've been toting kind of all year. Big fan of his preseason, going up against the Eagles this week. Kerryon's one that he kind of had a mini breakout last week, and people are expecting really good things and for the hype train to keep going. But that Philly defense right now is absolutely stout against the run. They look like they're completely locked in. I think that whole offense for Detroit might be looking at some setback this week, and I don't think that Kerryon's going to find the traction that he was able to find last week. And this might be a week where you look at trying to buy him low. Coming off of this game, because I do think that he's going to have a great year. They just got rid of CJ Anderson. I know that Andy's really high on another running back there in the Detroit backfield. But I think that Kerryon Johnson might have some struggles this weekend.
Yeah, he's referring to Ty Johnson, who I profiled this week and wrote up. And I think he's going to cut into some of Kerryon Johnson's time. And limit what Johnson's upside could be. But I know a lot of people have been very high on Johnson in the fantasy industry. I'm talking about Kerryon at this point. So everything he's saying, the defense he's playing against, the fact that Ty Johnson is going to get carries and some work, there you go.
Now, the only thing I have with that is, Philadelphia has played great against the run so far, but, it's not like they've really gone up against killer running backs at this point.
Sure.
The week 1 was Washington with Geis getting injured, and then Chris Thompson, involved with Adrian Peterson not even on the field. And then, of course, last week was Devontae Freeman, who has looked like crap right from the get-go. Heck, for the most part, that Atlanta offense has looked like crap until the very end when they're playing from behind, and all of a sudden they relearn how to do everything again. So, but at the same time, Kerryon hasn't done what we expected him to do up till now either. So this one's a tough one for me because I really like to see him break out. But now that you're saying that you don't think he's a good play this week, I might have to rethink that. Give us a player from your list that most other people aren't thinking about starting this week that you recommend.
Yeah, that one to me is an easy one. I'm going with Carlos Hyde. El Guapo. He's been doing some great stuff in Houston. I'm loving it. He just doesn't want to go away. Everyone wants to write him off. Everyone's like, we're not going to count him as being the lead dog in Houston. After we saw Duke Johnson getting down there, everyone thought it was going to be Duke's role all the way. I actually tweeted about it the day that they signed Carlos Hyde. I kind of indicated, I'm like, I think he might cut into some of that early down work. And it looks like that's what happened. He was far and away the lead rusher last week for Houston. Going against the Chargers this weekend, the Chargers have been pretty soft against the run. They let Marlon Mack go absolutely ham against them. So I think that Carlos Hyde is in store for a pretty effective and really inexpensive RB2 type of week. I think that he could easily slot in that RB2 area. He's not going to, rip off the 60-yard run, but he's going to keep the chains moving. He's going to put up about 4 yards a carry, 4.5 a carry. And looks like, if they get down in scoring position, they're going to let him hammer it in. So I think that he's a really good play this week.
I'm laughing because this is so crazy to me because right now in Houston, he's everything that we thought he would be in Cleveland. And then everything that we hoped he could potentially be in Jacksonville and then hopefully in Kansas City. Even in San Francisco, going back to his original team, fine. But, all of a sudden, Carlos Hyde is relevant again.
Playing behind a poor offensive line, too. But he has looked he looked better since he's come over to Houston than he has in 2 years running the ball. Yeah. So I hope that trend continues, even though I am a heavy Duke Johnson owner and he's kind of kicking my butt at the same time. But, I like to see guys like this who say, hey, look, I'm not dead yet. Don't count me out as dead. I like to see those kind of guys. And I thought he did a decent job for Cleveland when he got the chance. Yeah. It's just for some reason Jacksonville makes a trade for a guy that they really have no plan on using. I have no idea why they do that. I have no idea why that entire front office is still in the game, to be honest with you.
Are you taking notes? Because I would like to come back to Jacksonville at some point in this offense and how dynamic it's starting to become, which is crazy to say because it's supposed to have, not to, astute players, but to the casual fan, it's a bunch of no names that are running the show now. And this actually has potential to be a pretty prolific offense when you think about it. But going back to what you were just saying about why they traded for Carlos Hyde, I think it's really telling to where they were with Leonard Fournette last year. And it was, hey, let's take the gamble. It's not going to cost us anything. If Hyde can be what we thought he was going to be in Cleveland, if we thought he could have been in San Francisco, and he's that for us, then, hey, we'll let Fournette walk. Didn't work out that way. They let Hyde go. I mean, that's what I think it came down to.
But it was even worse than that because as soon as they made the trade, everybody was thinking, well, maybe Fournette's not as healthy as they keep saying he's going to be, and maybe he's going to be out longer than, than they keep telling us he won't be. And it turned out he was healthy. He came right back and started playing again. They didn't even give Hyde a chance. And that's why I question it more than anything. If they had doubts about Fournette being healthy, I get that. But they swore all along that Fournette was healthy and he was going to be right back. And it wasn't going to be a thing. And that's why I question that more than anything else. And at the time, I mean, it wasn't like TJ Yeldon wasn't doing a good job for them.
Right. Well,
so on that field, it just didn't make any sense to me. And it hurt Carlos Hyde's season before the trade, before Cleveland went to Chubb. Carlos, he wasn't tearing the world apart, but he was doing a good job. He was doing what they needed him to do in a bad offense at that point. So I'm glad he's getting back to the game.
Hey, listen, he was the first running back taken in his draft class. He's still a good back. He's not a bad guy. But can I ask John real quick? Can I sneak in a little running back question? And I just want to say to all the people watching right now, whether you're watching live or you're watching on the replay, give us the like. Make sure you go click the thumbs up. Don't forget, it means a lot to us. So just go do it real quick. It takes 2 seconds to do. If you're watching, why not? I want to give a shout out real quick to Michael Stepney. He's been a great friend and does a lot to support me. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Michael. He's here this week as always. You as well. Mike's a good friend of ours, so I want to say a hi and acknowledge him. But I wanted to ask you a question that we had from Packers Fantasy Chick, who wanted to know. I got to pull up the names real quick, but she wanted to start 3. Start 2 of these 3: James Conner, Aaron Jones, or Raheem Mostert. And I said I would go with Aaron Jones and Raheem Mostert and bench James Conner this week. But I'm curious, you being the running back guru, what you would tell the answer to be on this. So pick 2 of those 3.
Yeah. First and foremost, I think that Aaron Jones is a lock. You start him. We finally got to see what he looks like in a bell cow role last week. Looked fantastic. I know that there was stuff coming out this week about LaFleur saying that he wants to get Williams involved too. But Idiot. I think that we saw his productivity. I think we saw what he can do when he gets a full workload. I think that he's locked in as that lead back. And I think that they're comfortable playing good defense and running the ball. I think they're not making Aaron Rodgers slinging it all over the place. And they're comfortable with their running game. So I think that Aaron Jones, you got to start him. When it comes down to this, if you asked me 4 weeks ago if I thought that I would be debating James Conner and Mustard, I would have laughed. But I'm really concerned about Conner. I'm really concerned about him. And San Francisco has been surprisingly stout against the run so far this year. I think I'd still roll with James Conner just because of the upside, because of who he is, because of what he's shown. They use a 1 running back system in Pittsburgh. They're going to roll with him if he's healthy. He's going to see 90% of the carries, and he's going to get some work in the passing game. We saw 3 running backs in San Francisco essentially split the workload last week, and all 3 of them were amazing, but that was against a terrible rush defense in Cincinnati. Pittsburgh's had a really good showing so far. They shut down Chris Carson for the most part last week against Seattle.
Caused 2 fumbles.
Yeah, that's true. But some of that can be on Carson, not as much
agree. Absolutely agree.
On the defense. I think that if Rashad Penny is somehow available in your league, stash him because he might get a crack at some point. But
although it's looking doubtful for him to play this week.
I saw that. Yeah, late hamstring. That's never a good thing.
Nope.
When you pop up randomly on the injury report. But yeah, going back to the question, I think I'd still roll with Conner and Aaron Jones just because I'm not sure how that San Francisco workload is going to split.
So, Jimmy, who are your 2?
I'm going to go with Conner as well and Jones as well. Look, I like Mostert. He played well last week. I expect him to play well this week. The only thing I will say about the San Francisco stout running defense, we haven't really seen it tested yet. First week they went up against Tampa Bay, and even Ronald Jones had 75 yards rushing on only 13 carries against him. But then last week we had Cincinnati, which, I mean, I know it has Joe Mixon, but that offensive line is so decimated by injuries that they can't get out of their own way right now. What does Mixon have? 23 yards rushing in the first two games? I mean, it's ridiculous.
He's easily the biggest disappointment this season so far.
Right now, he is the premier disappointment. And there's quite a few that can be in that list, but he is definitely the premier. At the end of draft season, there were a lot of people taking him at the end of first round. And they're paying for that right now.
I want to ask you both this, and Jim, I'm gonna let you answer this first. I mean, it's your, whatever. I feel weird saying that to you, but whatever. We got a few questions here, so we're gonna come back to these, and we got to talk Antonio Brown at some point. That was one of the questions as well. But my question was
Do we have to, Andy?
We should.
Well, just because of what the impact is on the other players
Yes,
around him. And we will right after this. So go ahead, Andy.
So the question I have for both of you is, we've reached that point where everybody hits the panic button after 2 weeks, and some of these guys, like John was saying, week one, this is not the time for Aaron Jones. He's gonna struggle week one. Buy him on the cheap for those who are panicking, and he's saying the same thing about Kerryon Johnson this week. People are going to be throwing up the white flag. See if you can pounce on him, because I think he's going to be great going forward the rest of the season. But 2 weeks in, what do you guys? What's your threshold? What's your cutoff point for where you say, you know what, I can't wait anymore on this guy? I believed in him coming into the season. Like Mike Williams was a guy, Jim, I was very high on all year. So far, not so great. I was hoping for a lot more at this point, but I understand he's not 100% healthy. At what point do you say, is it week 2? Is it week 3? Is it 4 or 5? Do you have a limit?
It really depends on the player and what my expectations were for them. But at the same time, you have to take in everything around him. Is the full offense really working well? Is it just him and the rest of the offense is doing well? All of that stuff has to come into play when you're making that decision. Now, so far through 2 weeks, even though I have some duds on my lineup, the only player I've given up on, and this is going to make you happy, is Dante Moncrief. I pounded him all preseason. I thought his experience would carry. Who knows? Maybe it's the broken finger, whatever.
Jump on the Washington train.
I am now. Well, especially now because Washington has Mason Rudolph throwing to him. They have rapport together. Jackson. What? I like Deontay Johnson too. I do. Don't get me wrong. I like Deontay as well. I think he's going to be involved.
Somewhere Frank Scandoro is laughing very hard.
Oh, that's okay. It's not on a podcast, so he can laugh his ass off for all I care. He walked his ass out of here, not me. So I'm not worried about Frank Scandoro. Look, hey, we all make mistakes. We all make bad calls. It was what it was. I thought his experience would play out. I thought, with this quarterback in this environment, I thought he would excel. But whether it's the fingers still bothers him or whatever, you don't catch the ball. You don't catch the ball. You don't get on the field. I don't care what it is. We'll see if James Washington is that guy. Can he do it against top defenses now with his quarterback throwing the ball? We'll find out quickly. It is. I agree. He worked with them all preseason. No doubt. He worked with him in college. Yeah, I get it. No doubt. If he's going to break out, this is the time for him to break out. If he doesn't break out, then I'm going to be laughing my ass off at you, because I told you there's something this team doesn't like about him. We will find out now what that is.
Oh, we will.
So he's the only one I've given up on. The rest of them, I have a lot more patience than most people. I mean, I've seen some of the craziest things. Mike Evans got dropped in a couple of leagues I saw. Just crazy things with people like that. I do all these leagues? Shows. Yeah, I do all these shows, and I see, there's people that come into the chat room and ask questions, and all they want to do every single week is move players around just for the sake of moving players around. I mean, why do you even bother to draft? Just go to NFL.com and hit the easy button. Well, and there you go. Let it make all your decisions for you.
And to that point, I had a question tonight, and it was basically it wasn't. I don't think he was strongly considering it, but he said, "Talk me off this ledge. Am I crazy to even consider?" I forgot who it was. I think it was Calvin Ridley, starting him over Devontae Adams. And I said, you don't draft Devontae Adams in the first round to consider benching him while healthy in week 3.
I saw your response to that. It was Ridley for Adams.
Okay.
Because he was concerned about the quarterback or the cornerback matchup for Adams. You took Adams with the top 5 pick. You play him. It's been 2 weeks, and one of the weeks was against Chicago.
Right.
You got to roll with it a little longer than that.
Yeah, definitely. In a case like that, you got to roll like him or Evans or guys that we consider studs that have gotten off some slow starts. Slow your roll, people. Slow your roll.
So let's go. No, I wanted to.
Okay, well, I'm going to get into this thing from Perry then.
Okay.
It is about Antonio Brown. And in case you were living under a rock or sleep for 20 years, Antonio Brown was let go by the Patriots today. And whatever. We don't want to get into that aspect of it. What we want to get into is now that he's off the Patriots, and I'll start with you, John, first. Who do you think it helps the most? Who are the players that are most invested in Antonio Brown now being gone?
I think the easy layup is Josh Gordon,
right?
As being the other outside guy. We all know that's the case. I think that Philip Dorsett benefits a lot from AB being gone, because we saw him have a really effective week 1. He's got a great rapport with Tom Brady. I think that opens up just enough in the offense, enough of a crack there for him to exploit it and potentially be, worthy of something. That's someone that if he's out there right now with this news breaking today, pick him up, put him on your bench, see how it goes for a couple weeks.
Don't drop Mike Evans to do it though.
No. But if you've got a late round flyer running back on your bench that hasn't amounted to anything yet, drop him, pick up Philip Dorsett for it. I also think, as that comment says, James White, I'm a big fan of James White in what he brings to that offense, especially in the passing game. And again, these targets have to go somewhere. I think that we know Josh Gordon is going to see an influx. I think Philip Dorsett sees a little more, and I think James White kind of reestablishes himself as a pretty good option, especially in PPR formats.
And that's what his option is, PPR formats. He's not a guy you would ever play in a standard. Heck, not even a guy you would draft in a standard league. He's definitely a PPR monster. Even in a half PPR, I don't like him, just because it really limits his upside tremendously.
Right.
And I get most of that. Everybody, the one thing I keep trying to tell everybody is if you're expecting the numbers James White gave you last year to happen again this year, that's not going to happen. And I'll tell you why I say that's not going to happen. Last year, he had 500 yards rushing and 5 rushing touchdowns, numbers he's never even gotten close to before. Right. Now that you got relatively healthy Sony Michel, you still got Rex Burkhead, although they are talking about possibly looking to try and trade him. But you also have Damian Harris waiting back there too. So I don't think White is going to get enough opportunities to get all those rushing yards, rushing TDs. So his numbers, while they'll be good for PPR, don't expect him to be, a high-end wide running back 2 this year. He's more on the line of low-end running back 2, or a flex play. Don't expect him to be that every week starter, because I just don't think the numbers are going to be there for that.
Yep, I agree with that, and I'm excited to see Damian Harris. I hope they do trade Rex. I'd love that. Free up some opportunity for Damian to get in the backfield.
I would like to see that as well.
I'm with you too, and I'll poke fun at myself with that. I love Damian Harris, but where is Darrell Henderson? Where is Damian Harris? Where's Justice Hill? Where's Darwin Thompson? Where are all the summer hype?
Well, you got to give them time. We knew that then.
I'm poking fun of myself a little here too, because I'm a big Damian Harris fan. But going back to what you guys were just saying, my super crazy answer is Gronkowski benefits the most out of this, because he says, "Look at what is happening to my team. I have to come bring some positive energy back to it."
Did he say that? I didn't see that at all.
No. I'm making this as my super crazy answer. Benefits. My crazy answer is Jacoby Myers, who is the preseason darling and maybe has an opportunity to get some snaps now in the regular season. But I think ultimately Dorsett is probably the smart play here, because Edelman and Josh Gordon are just going to cost you too much. They're rostered, so you're going to have to trade for them. People are going to be looking at it going, oh, if you're inquiring about these guys, then maybe what am I missing? So they're going to hold out for a king's ransom. So Dorsett is the guy you can likely get. He's a first-round talent. I'm a Miami guy, so I still back him. I got to hang out with him and meet him and Denzel Perryman when they were in the same Senior Bowl class together. Names, I love dropping names. I do love dropping names.
He had dinner with Donald Trump last week.
No, don't say that. Don't say. I just lost 10 followers now that you just said that. Don't say that. But
you like Burger King.
It was his dime. What can I tell you? He likes Burger King. I was just there.
I'd take the Burger King. That's fine.
No, I definitely think Dorsett is the guy. But I mean, can we, now that we've addressed the elephant in the room, like, is this just
Hey, I'm
crazy?
not that big.
Well, no, you lost some weight, but
I got my hair cut, maybe.
I don't think we need to talk about the sheer insanity of what's going on with AB.
No.
I don't think we need to dive into, does he have any brain issues or anything like that. But I do think it's relevant to ask, do we see him again in 2019? Do we see him again in 2020? Do we ever see him again in the NFL? And I say that because I tweeted out thinking it was kind of funny or snide or whatever, saying he's going to start working out with Colin Kaepernick, and people thought that was controversial. And I said, listen, I'm only saying it in the sense that, to me, he seems to be trending in the way Allen Iverson, Stephon Marbury, Colin Kaepernick, and now maybe Antonio Brown are going, where they're blackballed, shunned from the leagues that made them famous. So do we see this guy ever again?
Well, let me
go ahead
on that real quick. The Seattle Seahawks are a team that literally inquires about everyone.
So are the Patriots.
What?
So are the Patriots.
Yes, they are. They inquire on everyone. They call on everyone. Today in their press conference, they asked Pete Carroll, hey, are you guys making a call to AB? And he went, I think we're set. I think we're all good here, was his response. So if the Seahawks, who place a call on everybody, because they subscribe to the theory that everyone has value at some point. It's how much risk you're going to put into it. If they aren't willing, if they're done, I think that he's done. I don't see another easy path for him back, especially not this year. I don't know what you do if you've got him in a dynasty league. It hurts you more than it helps you to drop him. So I guess just stash him if you have a deep spot. But outside of that, this is looks not very good.
I don't think he makes it to Sunday without going on the commissioner exempt list. And I look, it's not about whether he did the rapes or not. It's about harassing texts that are group texts.
What time is it?
Yeah, that's 36 hours.
All right, I'll take that bet.
He, not only did he send the woman that is accusing him text, but he sent it as group text so other people got it.
Yeah.
There's no coming back from that. Right there, that falls under the parameters of not doing what the league tells you not to do. And that instantly they're going to suspend him. They're going to put him on the commissioner exempt list at the very least. I don't think he steps foot on the field at all in 2019. And I think 2020 is going to be a push at this point. Look at all of the negative things he just brought to the NFL. And we know this is the things they don't like. So I don't see it happening.
It's crazy to think that they were just teammates for a week, but that Josh Gordon has more job security right now than Antonio Brown. That's a wild thought.
It's funny. Antonio Brown left today, got released. And all of a sudden, the New England Patriots went from favorites to winning the Super Bowl to favorites to winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, well,
it's just the way it is. So it's like, Antonio Brown, he's great. Okay, he's gone. Who cares? We're still going to win. It is what it is.
If AB left any other team in the NFL, if he left them, you would see those odds go down drastically. It's just the Patriots.
Yeah, right. Exactly what it is. So, so we do have some other questions in the chat room. So let's get to them. Enough AB talk. I feel like we've talked about him ad infinitum for the last freaking 2 months, and I'm done.
Same.
So Ian in the chat room, he wants to know he needs a wide receiver and a flex in his PPR league. He has Lockett, Boyd, Woods, Montgomery, Kerryon Johnson, and Mixon. Which two do I start this week? Well, I'm going to make this easy right off the top. Based on John's info, take out Kerryon Johnson. I'm taking out Mixon just because Mixon has looked terrible. So we'll take them out. So you need one wide receiver, one flex. Let's start with the wide receiver. Lockett, Boyd, or Woods. And I'll start with you this time, Andy. Which one of those three do you want this week?
Lockett, Boyd, or Woods? I listen, all these Rams guys are looking good. I think Boyd's the odd man out here. I think Boyd's the odd man out here. I'll just keep it short and sweet.
Okay,
Yeah.
John, do you agree with that or no?
I do. It looks like starting corners, two of them for Cleveland are banged up and might miss this game.
Yeah, both of them.
Both of them, yeah. And if you're missing both of your corners against that Rams offense, that's a long day. So I love Woods this week, and I think that this is Montgomery's breakout week.
They're starting a corner that just got called up from the practice squad, right?
I saw that, and what a tough assignment to go against the Rams, Sean McVay, and all of his schemes.
Yeah,
that's not going to go well.
So you're not worried at all that Woods was basically left out of the game plan last week?
I'm not. Like we've been talking about, don't overreact early. This is a guy that, he looked, the numbers that he was putting up last year, he looked like a strong top 12 to top 15 wide receiver. I mean, you can make a case that all three of the Rams wide receivers are in the top 15 at the position when they're all healthy. And they have enough distribution on that team to make that happen. They have enough opportunity to go around. Lockett, I don't like this week. He's got a brutal matchup. I'm not in love with Lockett. I don't know. If I had to go, I'd go with starting Woods. I love Montgomery. Kerryon Johnson might be a flex play. Mixon still concerns me with his health.
Okay, well, I'm going to jump in here. I'm not as worried about Tyler Lockett going against New Orleans as I am about Boyd going up against Buffalo. To me, that's a much worse matchup just because of that offensive line, and I think they're going to be all over Dalton. Plus, he's going to face off a lot against Tre'Davious White, so I don't like that matchup. I like Lockett. I actually have Lockett the highest of those three this week, but not by much. I have Lockett at 15. I have Woods at 19, and I have Boyd all the way down at 26.
Whoa.
So I have Lockett a little higher.
We're right there. We're in step. I have Lockett at 16. I have Woods at 20, and I have Boyd at 24.
Yeah. So I would go with Lockett. And I want to believe in Montgomery. I do. I was praising him all preseason. I was harping him big time. I was taking him, in the second round because I think this kid is that good. And then they come out week one and Matt Nagy gets all freaking cute and ends up costing his team the win because Trubisky looks terrible. So why not let him throw the ball 45 times? And why not let the four running backs carry it 15 times total? Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world, Mr. 2018 Coach of the Year. You're not going to win it again in 2019 and you keep doing stupid crap like that. That to me, I couldn't believe that game plan. It just made me nuts. Look, I get it. If you want to get Mike Davis in there, he's at this point in his career, he's absolutely a better protector of the quarterback than Montgomery is at this point. Montgomery is by far the better running back, but protecting the quarterback is big too. So I get having him in there. Having Cordarrelle Patterson in there, that's just getting a little too cute for my liking. All that kind of stuff going on. Matt Nagy, to me, I just don't know if I trust him to, and this is something I get from Sigmund Bloom, and I love this. We expect rational coaching. Doesn't mean we're going to get it. And that's such a good point. It's like, what we think we see isn't always what the coach is going to do. And sometimes they really should take advice from fantasy football players. They'd be amazed at how much we actually do know. So for me, I'm going to go Lockett and Montgomery. I'm with you on those two. But Montgomery is definitely still a little scary to me.
And I'm the name dropper here, mentioning Sig like that. Listen, one thing that
me and Sig go like way back to the freaking beginning of all this stuff. Him and I, we go back a long way.
I know Sig's my boy. I love Sig. But one thing. Listen, we have a lot of hit or misses with the draft, but one thing that's fairly consistent is running back draft capital. And there's a reason Montgomery slid, if you want to say slid, to the third round. And it's not because of the quote-unquote unimportance of the running back position, because you saw Josh Jacobs go in the first round, and so far he looks like a lead running back. There's a reason some of these other running backs slipped. There's a reason Montgomery and Devin Singletary were basically viewed similarly with NFL GMs. And point being is,
What is your point? You're talking around a lot of stuff. What's your point?
For the same way I said before, Damian Harris, when are we going to see him? When are we going to see Darrell Henderson? When are we going to see all the guys, Justice Hill, all the guys that everybody hyped up? David Montgomery.
Wait. I want to clarify something. I was not one of those people hyping Darrell Henderson.
I'm not pointing any fingers at you. I'm not pointing any fingers. I'm talking.
He was one of the few I wasn't.
There's a huge industry though of people talking about all these next guys, because everybody's trying to chase and be the first guy on somebody. So everybody's looking to uncover that guy. But at the end of the day, listen, there's only so many players. So we're all going to be talking about the same guys. So it's okay if we're all talking about the same guy. You don't have to reach on somebody. And I think too much was expected of David Montgomery. Too much was expected of Miles Sanders right out of the gate. And I'm not saying they're struggling, but they're still
struggling.
They're still trying to find their ground and their footing, and that's what you get.
Well, it almost always happens with rookie running backs. You got to, most of the time they get worked in. They don't come. Jacobs came in and he was the lead back right away. I get that. That was their plan. That's what they wanted to do. And, I expected close to that with Montgomery. I really did, especially how good he looked in the preseason. He just rolling people over. It didn't matter who it was. And I'll stand by that. I still think he is going to be an outstanding running back this year. But it really comes down to Nagy and whether or not he's going to make that decision. Comes back to rational thinking. Can we expect him to be rational? After the first 2 weeks, I'm not sure.
What's rational when you realize you have a quarterback who's severely overrated and maybe not the guy you need to be running your franchise? What's coming back to earth? Mike Davis is a real thing, and the problem with Mike Davis is he's a good receiver out of the backfield, which means now you're pushing Tyreek Cohen to take advantage of his skill set to a receiving position, which
let's just call Cohen a slot receiver,
which is redundant with what you drafted in Anthony Miller, what you signed in Taylor Gabriel. This team does not seem to be well constructed, is what it comes down to, more than Nagy. For my 2 cents, the defense is going to keep them in games. The offense is a bunch of high-priced names and well-known names, and people think it's a better offense than what it actually is, but it's just not.
Well, again, a lot of that comes down to coaching for me. I'm sorry. But again, if you see your quarterback struggling in game one, week one, why are you going to have him throw the ball 45 freaking times when he's struggling right from the first throw?
Because
to me, that makes no sense.
Because you took him to be your franchise guy.
I don't care why you did it. You're trying to win a game. All of that stuff goes out the window. Same thing like right now for fantasy football players. I don't care where you drafted a player. It doesn't matter now. What all that info?
It does matter.
No, it doesn't.
To the general manager signing the check, it absolutely does.
Oh no,
it absolutely does. To the general manager signing the check, it absolutely does. We invested this draft capital in you. We've given you the big bucks. You're supposed to be our guy. You're supposed to be our future. We took all these other guys to surround you with weapons. We brought in this head coach who's going to unleash you, and you're just not what we thought you were going to be. Look at Blake Bortles. It could set a franchise.
I'm not arguing that point. I'm arguing I don't care what you have invested in that guy as your quarterback. If he's struggling right at the start of the game, then you find other ways to use him. Hand the ball off, throw short passes, whatever you can to take it so he doesn't have to try and go down the field when he's obviously missing everything down the field.
Okay.
John, what's your thoughts on this? I'd love to hear. You've been sitting there quietly watching us go back and forth.
I've been watching you guys go back and forth. You're literally on either side of me, and it's kind of like watching ping pong. It's pretty funny. I agree with that. The sentiment that you need to win the games, but you also you try. It seems like GMs and coaches. Well, first off, let's start with the GM. The GM a lot of time is in the coach's ear saying, we took this guy to be our guy. You need to get him involved, help him develop. And with Trubisky, we're going on year 3, and he's missing wide open throws, bad reads. He's a one-read guy so far. How many times did we see week 1 that Allen Robinson is sitting there going like this on the sideline asking for the ball, and Trubisky straight up did not see him? Going back to Montgomery, though, rookie running backs take a little bit of time, generally speaking, for the game to kind of slow down in front of them. Even Zeke, his rookie year, first couple weeks, people were freaking out because he was not looking like the number 4 overall draft pick and surefire first-round fantasy guy that they drafted him to be. But he ended up seeing the game better. It slowed down for him. He was able to get into his rhythm and really kind of take off. Same thing last year, Nick Chubb. They didn't really give him the starting nod until week, was it 6, 5, something like that. So with Montgomery, they fed him last week. He got 18 carries.
Yep.
18, Mike Davis had 3. So I think that they noticed, hey, week 1, he's the most talented guy in our backfield. We didn't get him involved enough, and now it's time to turn the guy loose. So I think that
rational thinking.
I think it's starting to come together. Nagy has all these new toys to play with and needs to figure out how they all fit, but I think that he will figure that out. He wants to get Montgomery involved. And I think that I saw a comment on the side there about Montgomery dancing around, taking too long, missing some reads. That stuff's going to come together for him as the game kind of slows down in front of him. So I'm still very bullish on Montgomery.
Me too.
I still think that end up being a great running back. If you've got a frustrated Montgomery owner in your league, go get him because he's gonna pay off at some point. RB2 potentially could finish the year in the top 12.
I totally agree with that. I actually have him in my top 12 for the year. I do like this kid a lot. I think this kid is going to be excellent.
I'll tell you what, go get yourself Eddie Pinheiro because they're going to be kicking a lot of field goals, Chicago is.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
I personally, I like Joey Sly, Carolina. I think he's going to be doing the same exact thing, and that kid's got a booming leg.
Hey, can we bring this up since you just talked about it? And listen, I know you wanted to cut this at an hour. You have a migraine. I don't know if you're feeling better right now.
I am feeling better.
Listen, we had a whole plan to run down every game this week and go over what we thought the script was going to be and who you should play and bench and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, we're not going to get to that. I do want to say real quick because I know, Jim, you're aware of them, and I know John is like the leader of the fan club, but the Ball Blast girls, Kate and Michelle, Michelle had, I forgot which one, but one of them had this thread, which I thought was really pretty ingenious. It was Michelle. Okay. And she has, this whole thread with just for each game, a capsule for each game of who she's playing, who she's not, who she's lukewarm, whatever. Go check it out. Unsolicited plug right there. But we're obviously not going to get to all that. But you did just bring up Joey Sly. You bring up Carolina kicking field goals. Will Greer was the guy they brought in. It looks like Kyle Allen is the guy everybody's starting to add and fire up. Cam Newton is definitely not 100% right. And I'm not just talking physically. If you saw his post-game appearance last week, there is a lot going on there right now. So
Cam at the podium.
What is your take with this Carolina offense from the running back's position to the quarterback position? Greg Olsen has, on paper, a fantastic matchup this week.
Yeah.
Do you trust the quarterback? Do you trust him even? Do you like him even more now? Because you're thinking he's going to check down to Olsen. When we were watching Olsen last week or 2 weeks ago, last week on Thursday night, he had a phenomenal game. He did not look very agile at all, though. He was wide open, but he looked so stiff.
Yeah,
so is that going to be grabbing the attention of some inexperienced quarterback that's under pressure? What way are you guys leaning with this Carolina offense going forward?
Oh, I got a lot to say on this, but I'll let John go first.
Okay. If I'm going first, I'm loving me some Curtis Samuel right now. Curtis Samuel, when I'm trying to blank backup quarterback's name.
Kyle Allen.
Kyle, thank you. When Kyle Allen was in end of the season last year, he targeted Samuel a ton. He was looking for him. He was the safety valve. It wasn't Greg Olsen that was the safety valve for him. It was Curtis Samuel.
Well, Greg Olsen was out by then.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But Curtis Samuel saw more targets from Kyle Allen than DJ Moore did. So I think that Curtis Samuel has a little bit of a relationship going there with the quarterback. I think that he's going to get targeted a ton. And Greg Olsen, it's tough for me. I'm still recommending him if you're in a deeper league and you don't have a lot of options around you if you're looking at the waiver wire and it's looking a little bit thin. Greg Olsen is a fine streamer for this week. I don't know how long his body's going to hold up, though.
Yeah, he's hurting again.
Yeah, it's brutal. The dude's just he's a mess. But I think that this week, like you were saying, that matchup against Arizona, they've been terrible against the tight end so far this year. Hawkinson.
They've been terrible against everybody. And it's going to be that way until they get Patrick Peterson back.
Yeah, it is. And it's just not good. I mean, you had Hawkinson and then Mark Andrews last week, and both of them went for over 100 and a touchdown. So I think that Greg Olsen's fine as a streamer for this week.
The only caveat to that, the thing you have to keep in mind, and really comes down to like who are your other choices. But
right.
There's always a chance with Greg Olsen at this point that he doesn't make it through the game. He's been questionable both the last 2 weeks. His back has been acting up. And like Andy said, he was stiff as a board. Now, luckily, I mean, the guy's been around long enough. He's, again, I always equate this to, a starting pitcher in the major league, and Andy always laughs at me when I do this, but, early on, he relies on his power to win his games. And as he gets older and the power goes away, then he gets smarter and he learns how to pitch better.
Real quick. Interesting article today in the San Francisco Chronicle about the Major League Baseball being different, which has led to the meteoric rise and record-setting pace of home runs this season in baseball. So just a quick side note for all you Stitch heads out there.
Stitch heads.
So, it just becomes a part of it. He knows now how to get open. He doesn't have to be as fast. He doesn't have to be as good getting in and out of his breaks. He just knows how to manipulate the defender so that he gets open. So, if he's on the field, I'm playing the guy. Look, the guy's going to be a future Hall of Famer. So if he's on the field, I want to play. Oh, he's got it. He's got it made. He's absolutely going to be in the Hall of Fame. But, the injuries are definitely, a concern at this point. So who knows how many games, like John said, how many more games he's got. We got a couple other questions in the chat room. Let's get into that.
Got a lot of questions tonight, but not as many thumbs up. Not as many thumbs up as questions. So if you haven't put your thumbs up yet, go do that right now.
Take that trade in a heartbeat and don't look back.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing. Definitely. If you can get Mike Evans for Woods, and I like Woods, don't get me wrong, but if you can get Evans for Woods, do it now. Don't even look back. You agree?
Wait. Obviously agree, but he was dropped in some of these 16, 4 to 5, 16 leagues you're playing in. So why would you even need to trade Robert Woods at all? You could just add Mike Evans on the waiver wire.
Well, obviously he wasn't on the waiver wire in his league.
No.
You can always
you make that trade.
Come back and offer like a who am I thinking? Like a Rashad Penny. Come back with like a running back that happened to get a long touchdown last week. Throw that in there and see if he bites.
Okay, so I'm trying to catch up with some of these last questions. I want to get them all in there. But I when it comes to Carolina, I'm going to say this about Kyle Allen. Can he be any worse than Cam Newton was?
Yes.
I don't think he can. Absolutely not. He's healthy. He's a quarterback. One thing that Cam Newton wasn't. He wasn't healthy.
Oh man.
Simple. I don't think there's a chance in hell Kyle Allen is going to be worse than Cam Newton was these last couple weeks.
What did
atrocious.
And I told you, and we talked about this on this show after week 1. I told you Cam wasn't right. And everybody, he did okay. He'll be fine. He's just got to work out the kinks and work out the rust. But I watched that game wholeheartedly, and he was not right. And sure enough, going into week 2, everybody, look, Cam's not right. Yeah, no sure.
And that's fine, but that wasn't what you questioned. You said, can he be any worse than Cam? Yes, he can be a lot worse than Cam. Listen, Cam, what is Cam Newton showing you? He's showing you he can be a leader. You needed to show up.
He's a terrible quarterback. He's been a terrible quarterback for years. The only thing that's kept him afloat for fantasy is his running ability, and he's not even doing that anymore.
Because he's
been
not
one
right.
of the most inaccurate quarterbacks forever.
He's not as inaccurate as Trubisky.
Well, I can't. Trubisky is on his own scale at this point.
He's won an MVP.
I think Newton's catchable ball percentage this last week was lower than Trubisky's.
It was actually. It was second worst in the league. I can't remember who was worst. Trying to remember off the top of my head, but maybe Luke Falk. But yeah, it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible.
Is that a shot at Salito?
No. Why would that be a shout at Sal?
Remember when we were making fun of him, or I was making fun of him?
You were making fun of him. Yeah,
he's in my Scott Fishbowl division. So I just started up the shit talking again today, and I outed him for adding Luke Falk in SFB9.
Nice. Okay, we're going to rush through some of these questions because these guys came here to listen to us. I want to answer their question. John, specifically for you, Michael wants to know, what's your thoughts on Austin Eckler, not only for this week, but how about moving forward?
Man, Austin Eckler right now is your RB1, which is absolutely insane to me. The Houston defense is good against the run. They were really good against the run last year. They were third. I'm looking it up right now. Third best in the league against the run, 82.7 yards a game. But the thing that Eckler brings to the table is that he catches the ball a ton too. So I think that Eckler's safe. You didn't draft him to be an RB1. You don't need him to be your RB1. You're putting him in as an RB2 or a flex. He's bound to hit those numbers. I don't think he might not go out and get you league-winning numbers like he has. He's not looking at 25 fantasy points this week. But even against a good defense, his usage in the passing game, where you're able to play him, you play him. The people that you took around that same draft capital as Eckler, he's right now the biggest value of the season.
Oh, absolutely. He's the biggest value of the season, but that value gets cut in half as soon as Gordon comes back. So you got to try and figure out that. To me, see, the reason I say that, look, it's going to happen at some point. Gordon's coming back at some point. He's going to be on the field, whether it's week 10 or week 11 or week 8. Everybody says it's a different week. That he needs to be back by. Same crap we went through with Bell last year until they finally realized that he didn't have to come back to accrue the season. Well, Gordon does. He's got to come back at some point to accrue this season. And they're not going to trade him. Nobody's going to pay that. Not only give up a good draft pick for him, but then also have to pay him that big amount after, all of the knee problems and the wear and tear on his body. Nobody's going to do that. So when he comes back, he's definitely going to be eating into Eckler's job. There's no doubt in my mind that happens. So for me, Eckler is a great sell high. But the problem is trying to figure out when. I want to hold him as long as I can because he is playing so damn good right now that I don't really want to give him up too early. But my thinking is, right now I'm thinking, I'll hold him through week 5 and then into week 6, I'll start thinking about moving him, especially if he's still playing at this higher rate. So I want to get your guys' opinion. Is that a wrong way to look at it, or you just want to ride Eckler for the year? And I'll start with you this time, John.
Yeah. I don't think it's a bad thought process. I think that Gordon's going to come back at some point. Like you said, they basically have to play him. Now, the thing about it is that even when Gordon was in the fold, Eckler still had flex appeal last year. I mean, he's still been able to put up good numbers in the complementary role in the passing game, able to contribute to your team. I played him in the flex several times last year and was completely happy with it. So I think that the value that he has right now, though, as being that RB1 in the league, he's not going to finish the year as the RB1. He's not going to. So if you can do a straight across trade with somebody after a few weeks, I mean, if you can get a wide receiver one for Eckler, like if you can go out and get a Devontae Adams who started slow for Austin Eckler, I would do that trade in a heartbeat, and you might be able to get away with it. So, yeah, I don't think that the sell high approach is wrong with this one. Gordon's going to be back at some point.
But
how about you, Andy?
Yeah, well, just real quick, and just give me a number for both of you, and then I'll give you my answer. But what is the week you think he's back? What game do you think Gordon's back?
Yes, yeah, you're asking me to tell the future. I don't know. Again, every article you read specifies a different week that he needs to be back by. Okay. I've seen week 8. I've seen week 10. I don't know what to believe.
Okay.
I think the longer that Eckler goes out and kills it, the faster that Gordon's going to want to come back.
Well, there is that too.
Oh,
He's
if
losing
Eckler's
every
out-
bit of leverage he has because
Yeah.
Eckler's doing exactly what they need. I agree with that
Right.
as well. And that's why I say that it's really, you're walking a fine line. Look, I know he has standalone value when Gordon comes back, especially with the way he's playing. He'll still have value, but it won't be in every week. It won't be a running back one type of number that you're seeing now. And that's why I say he's a sell high. Somebody out there is falling in love with this guy, and you could probably get more than one piece for him. You could probably get two good, solid pieces, especially if you go for two guys that we considered studs that haven't done anything yet. You know, if you can go out and get a Mike Evans and a Kerryon Johnson for him right now, if there's somebody out there that really is high for him, then do something like that. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
I'm not saying sell him, just for any piece. I'm saying if you can go out and get a killer package for him, just do it.
I want to give you my answer now.
Okay.
All right.
Nah.
So, a couple things.
I knew we were going to go past an hour. I can never stop talking long enough to get out of here.
No, but I'm gonna try to sound. I'm gonna try to
Oh
sound.
no, I'm not blaming you. It's me. I just talk too freaking much.
I'm gonna try to sound smart here, and hopefully whoever's listening gets something out of this. All right. So. All right, he's got me on mute. All right.
I muted his mic.
on the surface, it's easy to draw comparisons to what happened last year with the Le'Veon Bell holdout and
two
what
totally
happened.
different situations.
Well, I'm getting to that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What I'm saying is, on the surface, it's easy to draw comparisons and say, well, this is what happened with James Conner, and he merged, and look at what he did the whole season, blah, 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 blah. I fully expect Gordon to be out the maximum he could miss, which would be 8 games for him to be in the position he wants to be in. I don't think him coming back early or later. I think he honestly has more to lose by coming back early now because he's going to come back rusty, and Eckler's your RB1 in the league. So you come back and now they thrust you out there and you don't look like the Melvin Gordon we expected. You're making yourself look bad. So I think he's going to sit out the maximum he can, which means you're getting 8 weeks or 6 more now of what has been the RB1 to start the season. That is enough to clinch a playoff spot for your fantasy roster. If you can't get nearly as much week 9 as you can in week 3, so be it. You're at least going to be in the playoffs. And as Jon said, he still has value even in a role with Melvin Gordon. So it's not a total loss. Not to mention the Chargers bye is week 12, which is the final week. So I mean, I don't think you have to move him. And I don't think it's a guessing game of when Gordon does come back. I do think he's coming back, and I do think it's going to be the full time, like I said. So I think he's going to miss those first 8 games. And that, to me, that's more than half the fantasy season. And to sacrifice the number 1 player at a very significantly weak position this year, or at least to start, you're sacrificing the number one guy at that. For what? For hope? You know what I mean? For a guess? It's too much for me.
Now, is there a thought that the Chargers might just roll with Eckler? When Gordon comes back, if he comes back in the door. Now, Gordon's going to be involved, but is there a way that maybe it's just out of pure spite that it's a 60-40 Eckler's got the lead dog gig and Gordon's the one that's minimized to the second fiddle?
Even if that happens, I think he eats enough into Eckler where he still takes a hit. He's not putting up the numbers he's putting now when Gordon comes back either way, in my opinion. So I think he does take a hit. And again, I'm going to stand by the fact that, if you can get a good package of 2 guys that are starting out slow that were still considered studs, I'm still doing that. I'm not saying do it right now. That's why I said trying to figure out the week to do it is the hard part, and you got to take that chance. And hopefully, if you decide wrong and Gordon comes back before you make the move, at that point, it'll be hard to sell him because everybody's going to be a little down and questioning who's going to have what role at that point. And, you're still going to lose something with Eckler. And I just feel that I love players like this that we know at some point something's going to eat into their numbers. That when you want to sell them high, it's just something it's always been ingrained in me.
Well, Mendo Bruce and another friend of the show. So thank you for
All
tuning
these
in
people.
this week.
Thank you, everybody. John
Yeah.
Reed.
Thank you, everybody.
John follows me everywhere, so you gave a shout out to Michael, and I agree with that. Michael's always here too.
Well, Mendo's in that same category. So
yep, I agree. Mendo follows me everywhere. Same as John in my FNTSY show every day. John's in there saying, "Oh, you got to go see Jim in his podcast tonight, or you got to go see John Reed."
John, I'm talking to my guy John here. Do you see the name dropping that he does, and he says it's me? Oh man,
I'm dropping names of guys in the chat room, not President Trump.
I never said Trump. Maybe Giuliani, who swore me into my current position in my career. But listen, Mendo Bruce is asking. I've been offering Eckler for top running backs, but been turned down so far. So I'm curious. Who can you put in the comments? Who are some of the names that you're categorizing as top running backs? Because personally, from everything I just told you about, you're getting 8 weeks of the RB1. He's played a quarter of those 8 weeks, and he's been the running back one. And I get 3/4 of that left towards a playoff push. I'm trying to buy Eckler if I can. So what top running backs are you trying to take from me?
Okay,
Kamara,
while you ask that of
Elliott.
Mendo, and you can type it in the chat, I want to get John's opinion on this question from John Reed. Which RB has more value going forward, Latavius Murray or Justin Jackson, John?
Latavius Murray, and it's not even close.
Right, I agree with that.
Justin Jackson has been completely
obliterated by Eckler.
Yeah, and as soon as Melvin Gordon walks back through that door, Justin Jackson's not going to get a touch. Latavius Murray's in a great system that loves to use two running backs. I think Murray's got at least some appeal there.
I'm on board with that.
Yeah, me too.
And Mendo said real quick before you ask that next question, Kamara, McCaffrey, or Elliott. So yeah, I'd be telling you, go kick rocks too. If you're
you're a little high for Eckler on that.
Yeah. Tone it down.
Even though he's outperforming them so far, I get that, but people aren't giving up on those guys for Eckler because they're having this same thought in their head: when does Gordon come back, and how much does Eckler lose? So you're not going to get one of those guys for him, and that's why I say try and get a package. For somebody, I consider like a Mike Evans, Devontae Freeman. I'd do that. Guys like that haven't started well. Those are the guys you want to try and target. I love those kind of guys. We consider them studs coming into the season, and there's so many people bailing on these guys after 2 weeks. It isn't funny.
Well, you both said you were really looking to start buying David Montgomery where you can.
I can't buy David Montgomery anywhere.
What if you had Eckler?
He's on my team.
Would you offer Eckler for Montgomery, hypothetically?
I offer Eckler for Montgomery. Ooh, that's a good one. I
don't think that I would do it straight up. But you might be able to get Montgomery and a wide receiver too.
Yeah, right. At this point, I would absolutely look to make a package, but I would go after Montgomery if I could with Eckler, but to get another piece as well. I agree with John on that. Contreras D has in the chat room, pick a flex at 0.5 PPR, DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, Boyd, or Hardman.
Go for it.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Man, I'm really not, I don't love any of them this week, actually. Boyd's got a terrible matchup. DJ Moore, we'll have to see what Kyle Allen can do. And as John said, he targeted Curtis Samuel a ton last year, the last game he played. But again, that was also against the backups for New Orleans because it was week 17 and they had nothing to play for. So we haven't really seen him against a full-blown defense yet. Out of these guys, I don't like Boyd's matchup, but I'd probably go with Boyd.
Yeah, I have Boyd ranked the highest, and I think, you said half PPR, so I think that definitely adds to it. If you're playing solely for a touchdown, I think I would feel most confident in Metcalf being able to deliver on that end. So, I like the Hardman play, but I just think he's going to be too inconsistent right now. And Boyd is my highest ranked guy there. And the DJ Moore thing, I'm definitely dropping with the more that we found out about Cam Newton. So, yeah, I'd probably go Boyd if I only had one out of there.
I think the Boyd's got the safest floor.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Really what it comes down to. I think that Hardman and DK are both kind of boomer bust. I mean, DK might have 40 to 60 yards, but could throw a touchdown in there as kind of a dart throw. But yeah, I'd go
the only thing I would put a caveat to that is if you're going into the game and the other team is, just got a ton of studs and you don't think your team has a chance and you're looking for upside, then I might try Hardman. Yeah. Just because of that offense.
Right.
It's the problem is his floor is probably the lowest out of them as well. But if you're looking for upside, then I might look to McCole to do that. Outside of that, if you want the safest play, to me, that's Boyd.
Yeah.
Okay. So another quick question, since we're already past.
Well, we're in hour 3 now, and we have at least a couple questions up on the chat there.
Hey, dude, I'm way behind. That's why I'm trying to catch up. I've done 6-hour radio shows, so this ain't nothing. And my headache is gone, so I'm good to go. And I'm not editing the damn thing at all, so it's just going to fly the way it is. Because it takes me about 6 hours to edit an hour and a half thing because I'm so freaking anal about it. So I'm not going to be anal about this one. This one, you guys are all going to get raw. Right. Take it for what it is. Fun family. Oh, that's kind of an interesting name.
I want to hang out.
Yeah. You got a sister? Who should I start at RB and PPR? James Conner, Aaron Jones, or Raheem Mostert? Good question. Look, I like Mostert, but I'm going to take him out against those other two, Conner and Jones. But to me, those two are a good one. John, we're in your ballywick now. Which one? I mean, we know you were all over Aaron Jones earlier. You like Conner this week, but you had a little hesitation. Enough hesitation to where you would start Jones over him this week?
I would absolutely start Jones over Conner. I mean, if you can get Conner in a flex, depending on what your options are there, I think that's okay. But if you literally have to pick between one of these three, then I'm picking Aaron Jones.
Okay, how about you, Andy? What's your thoughts real quick?
We did this exact question at the top of the show, if you recall. Yeah,
no, I didn't recall.
Packers fantasy chick needed to start 2 of these exact same 3 players.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough.
And we went over this at nauseum.
Maybe Fun Family wasn't here. They were out having fun.
Maybe Packers fantasy chick is Fun Family, because that is the exact same question, which we got into earlier at the top. She was apparently eating Mexican food tonight and was going to try to join late. So,
yes.
There you go. Exactly as soon as I said it. There you go. So that is one and the same.
Oh, there you go.
We answered it at the beginning. The consensus was Aaron Jones.
But
drop a little James Conner.
Here's another part of it, though. You didn't get this. She gets a bonus for 40 and 50-yard touchdown runs.
Oh, well, in that case.
Still Jones.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Still Jones. They all got about the same chance of hitting that kind of number. So,
yeah.
Oh, she could start 2 of the 3. So Conner and Jones. Yeah, okay.
Wait, hold on.
And go listen to the recording tomorrow and listen back at the beginning when we broke it down.
I was setting up for a bad joke. I was trying to make fun of eating the Mexican and having a run, and I was thinking, does she get the bonus for the 40 or 50-yard run, or does the player that she still forget it?
Yeah, okay.
Not worth
it. Did you work that one out? And
did you hear it
tomorrow?
Not at all.
Andy, did you hear about the
followers while telling that?
Andy, did you hear about the new network that the NFL Network is coming out with?
Did you mute yourself?
No. I'm asking you. Did you hear about the new network they're coming out with?
No.
It's called Yellow Zone. They're going to show each and every penalty from each and every game all week long.
Is this a joke?
Yes, it's a joke.
All right. That's because listen, that sounds kind of plausible.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? The only problem is that show would go much longer than all the games. It would take 2 or 3
Right.
days
But
to cover all these penalties.
it would be shorter than this show, though.
Well, then, maybe we just need one less co-host. So John Reed has another question for us. O.J. Howard or Greg Olson? And I'll start with you, Andy. What's your take on this since you're sitting there playing with your phone?
You assume it's my phone.
Oh, hello. Either that or you're playing
man,
with your little doggy in your lap.
Man, this is so tough. I went over the Greg Olson stuff before. Listen, the matchup on paper, he's got the number one tight end matchup this week against Arizona. I mean, on paper, it's not even close. But you got who knows at quarterback. And normally I would say I like the fact of an inexperienced quarterback checking down to the tight end in the most favorable matchup. However, as I mentioned, he does not look to be that fluid right now. He looked very stiff. So it worries me a little, but I still think I'd have to go with him just for that fact alone. And O.J. Howard, listen, I'll drop it real quick. I hung out with him and Evan Engram at the Senior Bowl a couple of years ago. Got some great pictures with OJ. Listen, he is a beast. His problem is he's a really freaking good blocker, and he's needed on that line. And I know there's been, some back and forth with him and Arians in the press, and, he needs to play better and the balls will come and blah, 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 and all this stuff. They're masking the fact that he's needed to block in the interior and on that line. And that's what's happening. His focus has gone to that. It has not gone to being a receiver out of the backfield. So I think that the sky is the limit for him still physically and talent-wise, but prove it to me. Show it to me at least a couple times before I start buying into you. So for that, and the fact that, again, I'm a Hurricane fan, I got to stick with the U. I got to go with Olsen.
Okay, I'm going to turn it around. I'm going O.J. Howard. And because of the whole greasy wheel type of scenario, greasy wheel always gets the grease. I think, after all the talk and him coming up with a dead zero last week, he did have one thrown his way. Unfortunately, he committed a penalty on it, and it didn't work out for him. I think this week against the Giants, I think we're going to see him get involved, because the one thing we absolutely know about the Giants is, bad as they are on defense, they're terrible against tight ends. Always have been, always will, until his team finally decides to, invest in some actual good linebackers. Until that point, any tight end is going to beat their ass. So I'm looking for O.J. Howard to have a really big week this week. So I'm going to take Howard. What say you, John?
I'm going to use your own logic against you with the squeaky wheel gets the grease, that this is the Mike Evans breakout game.
Well, I think it could be both.
It very well could be. But I think that this is a Mike Evans game in a big way. I'm kind of with Andy on this until I see something from OJ, who I was on the hype train in the preseason, thinking this dude has the makings of a potential top 5 tight end in a Bruce Arians offense. They're going to just sling it all over the field. We haven't really seen it yet. I mean, Chris Godwin's been putting up great numbers, but not O.J. Howard. And like you said, big fat goose egg. So until I see something more from him, even hobbled, limping down the field, Greg Olsen had a great game last week. And the Cardinals' defense is just atrocious, especially without Patrick Peterson in there. So I'm going Greg Olsen.
Yeah. Well, it's not like the Giants' defense isn't atrocious, and they don't even have a Patrick Peterson to turn to at some point to look forward to. So we'll see. That's what we talk about. That's why we do this stuff and try and come out with it. It's okay for you guys to be wrong once in a while. It's just how it works. Next one, My Ball wants to know, Ertz or Kittle in a dynasty league, and it's PPR. Which one would you want in a dynasty league? I'll start with you, John.
To me, it's still Ertz. I love Ertz. I think that he's amazing. I think Carson Wentz is a far better quarterback than Jimmy G. I think that
I won't argue that.
Yeah. I mean, in Dynasty, you look at the setting a lot. I love the setting. I love the quarterback that's throwing him the ball that targeted him a ton last year, set the record for receptions, last year. He's not going to put up those same numbers, but he might look like last year's Zach Ertz, especially this weekend with potentially Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey both maybe missing this game.
Well,
so I think
Deshaun Jackson is absolutely out. He's out already.
Right. Yeah, he's out, but you might be without Alshon too.
Right.
So I think that the target share this week in particular, Ertz is going to just be crazy involved. And long term, I like the quarterback that's throwing it to him. So I'd go with Ertz.
Now, the only thing, I know that they have Ertz under contract, I think, until 2021, I think, is what his current contract is. I think he's at just over $7 million, $7.25 million. I'm trying to remember for the next couple of years after 2019. My only concern there is they may look. Everybody's been saying that they expected Dallas Goedert to break out this year, and it, of course, hasn't happened. He's been injured now. He may play this week. We're not sure. And I love Dallas Goedert. I think this kid is going to be a beast in this league. There's some people out there, and I'm kind of leaning that way, is that Philadelphia may look to move on from Ertz to save some money on that contract if they think Goddard can step into that role. And then you have to consider, first of all, where does Ertz go, and will it be as prolific as where he is now? And then for me, the other side of the coin is Ertz definitely has an injury history that Kittle doesn't have. Kittle's younger. All of those things factor in as well. Do I think Wentz is better than Jimmy G? Absolutely, 100%. Never been a huge Jimmy G guy. He's better on the cover of a magazine than he is on a football field. But, right. He did well last week in that matchup. But, I just think Ertz is a great tight end. I'm just worried about if they do try to move him, where does he land? And for me, that gives me just enough hesitation where I think they're very close in value. I think they're both very good at what they do, that I think I would take the younger Kittle without the injury history here over Ertz, even though I think Ertz is going to do better this year than Kittle. What's your thoughts on this, Andy?
Yeah, I think they're neck and neck. I don't think you could do wrong with either. So give me the 3-year difference, especially in the Dynasty League, and I'll take Kittle. I love George Kittle. I mean, he balled out with Nick Mullen and C.J. Beathard, and Jimmy G has to be a little bit better than them. Even though, I digress a little. I questioned at the end of last year, do we know that Jimmy G is better than Nick Mullins or C.J. Beathard? No,
I think Mullins is better.
Yeah, so I'm fine with that. And, I'll give a nod because Dallas Goedert was awesome to me when I got to talk to him to Senior Bowl. But literally, I listen, I will go on record right now and say,
I don't believe it. I want to see a damn picture.
Okay. I will go on record right now and say, I went on record earlier this week. I was completely wrong on Mark Andrews, and I don't know that it so much was the talent I saw, but how he could fit into this role and come out ahead of the 7,000 tight ends that Baltimore tried to roll out there and be this guy. And you look at the consistency he's put up through the first 2 weeks, and I don't think that changes dramatically going forward. So that him and Evan Ingram are the only ones at that position that I think week in and week out you're going to look at and say, I have no qualms about starting that guy. So when you look at Ertz and Kittle, they're going to have their down weeks, but you're still starting them. So in a Dynasty League, I'll take the age, I'll take the youth, I'll take the 3 years.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you, my ball. And, I'm never going to be president. I hate politics, but thank you anyway. It's always fun to put up on the screen.
Hey, listen, if you become president, I'll be dropping your name on other shows.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, I remember when I used to do a podcast with that guy. Okay, now quick story because I got to get this out there. I actually knew a guy. I went to high school with a guy who, I think it was 2012, ran as an independent for vice president. And his name was Wayne Allen Root. Now, the thing that sticks out about Wayne Allen Root was in high school, we used to get those white betting sheets for the football games, and you could pick, 4 teams, or you could pick all the way up to 12 teams in any given week and win a certain amount of money. This kid, week after week, was hitting winners, 10, 11, 12 teams every single week. He went on to become a huge Vegas handicapper, made millions of dollars in Vegas as a handicapper, and then all of a sudden turned ultra conservative in politics and started getting very. He still has a political show on one of the cable channels. That's really ultra conservative that he is now. But man, this kid in high school was winning money left hand over fist. I mean, it was amazing.
Well, short of the presidential run, that sounds like Matt Midlakowski, who's been doing his weekly betting brief for Expand the Box Score, and is 12-5 to start the season. Yeah, he's doing phenomenal. So that's another great free article. Our content is free. Go check it out. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, well, with the Ritter, I think he was supposed to go with the writer, but he went with the Ritter. Sorry, Whit, I just had to make fun of that. He wants to know Chris Godwin or Julian Edelman this week. I'm going to imagine this is PPR. And look, I like Edelman, especially without AB there. But, man, how can you turn your head on Chris Godwin at this point? Kid's just been playing phenomenal, and obviously Winston has no problem going to him. I know you think it's going to be Mike Evans' game. I think it's going to be O.J. Howard's game. But, you know, I'll start with you first this time, Andy. Which one of these two do you like and why?
It's very simple. To me, again, I don't think you can go wrong with either. And I think this is a great question, especially what we know with Edelman's history. And, you know, now you lose Antonio Brown, everything like that. This is what it comes down to me. And it's going to sound unfair to say, but this is what we know. Chris Godwin scores touchdowns. Julian Edelman does not.
Fair
in
point.
A nutshell.
Fair point. How about you, John? Anything to add to that?
Yeah, Chris Godwin just looks like the wide receiver one in Tampa. Like you're gonna, I think, run into a 1A, 1B situation.
Yeah,
like what we've been looking at in Minnesota with Thielen and Diggs.
Well, right now they're 4A and 4B.
Yeah, they're struggling to start this year, but that kind of
Diggs has 3 receptions through 2 games. 3. He's got 3 freaking receptions.
Go buy him low. Anyways, Chris Godwin. Dude's developing, but I actually see that he costs more on DraftKings than Mike Evans.
I believe he does, yes.
I think he costs more. He's just turning into a really, really great wide receiver. Jameis Winston loves throwing it to him. He's getting separation. He's getting open on all kinds of different routes. I think that he's absolutely solid, locked in as a wide receiver too, right now putting up wide receiver 1 numbers.
Well, look, the one thing we do know about Bruce Arians is the slot receiver always makes out in his offense.
Yeah,
I mean, it just does. He brought Larry Fitzgerald back from the dead, and he's turning Chris Godwin into a stud right before our eyes. So I love Godwin. I loved him coming in. I actually came into the season with him as my number 11 wide receiver.
Wow.
Before the season started. So, I did think that was, and that wasn't so much. I think Godwin's a good wide receiver, but it wasn't so much him. It was just what I know of Arians and what I've seen him do. So I really bought into that, and so far so good.
I don't think it's too far-fetched, though, to think that it has to be one or the other. I mean, Adam Humphries got a large portion of looks last year. He's gone. Rashad Perryman was supposed to be that third amigo, and so far it's not really happening, which is fine. O.J. Howard not really happening. It's Mike Evans and Godwin together. Their targets are basically even right now. It's just Godwin's had a little bit better production, and it comes down to those touchdowns. I mean, you can't argue with players that just have a knack for finding the end zone. That's why I marvel at Calvin Ridley. I mean, he's just able to do it.
Right.
That you look at DJ Shark now a couple weeks in a row, and you just look at it and you're like, he's just finding a way to do it. Now,
don't be talking about Jacksonville. I have to start talking about my newest man crush in Gardner Minshew.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just there. That is a skill set in its own right, and that's another reason we were talking about Metcalf a little earlier. I think he gives you the best opportunity to touchdown this week. It's just little things like that. You don't need 15 targets, 10 receptions, 150 yards if you have.
It's nice.
No, it's definitely nice, but 3 receptions for 50 yards and 1 touchdown is basically equal to that. I didn't do the math in my head. It could be off.
Yeah,
a
you
little
really
bit.
didn't, because if you really go back and review those numbers, they're not quite equal.
Well, let me figure this out.
10 receptions for 120 yards is a little bit more than 3 for 50 and a touchdown.
22 to 8 and 6 is 14. 22 to 14. I mean, all right.
Yeah, that homeschooling didn't work.
No, you get what I'm saying, though. You get what I'm saying.
And yet, folks, he runs a website that is all about the numbers.
It's fantastic.
Luckily, he has a really good staff around him. But yeah, I think we all agree. At this point, I'm taking Chris Godwin. I'm not. I mean, I want both of them in my lineup. If I have to figure out a way to try and get both of them in, but if I can, I got to go with Godwin at this point. We got another question. I'm trying to catch up, but these guys are going quick.
Well, you got to cut it off at some point, because I only paid John for an hour.
You paid me?
John's saying, where the hell's my check, dude?
Right here, buddy. Right here.
Arlo Grand, he's got a question. Pick 3 wide receivers to start: Michael Thomas, Julian Edelman, Marquise Brown, or Fitz. You guys know I love Fitz, so I'm going to go to John first. I can't get away from Fitz.
Thanks. Well, first and foremost, if you have all 4 of them, try and trade one of them now. Because that's a lot of value on your lineup. Michael Thomas is too good to sit, even with, you know what? I might actually backup quarterback in Seattle.
Which backup quarterback?
Yeah, that's
and that is the thing right there.
I don't know if it's far-fetched to say that Michael Thomas takes a seat right now with those other guys in the volume / big play potential that you have there, especially with Hollywood Brown. Now listen, I know it's only week 3 and you drafted Michael Thomas probably in the second round or maybe even the back end of the first. But backup quarterback, how's that system going to respond to not having Drew Brees there? I'm not so sure that I would be opposed to giving Michael Thomas a seat this week.
I have a major problem with that. If you're going to tell me that the team collectively, whether it's Bridgewater or Taysom Hill, both together, if they only throw 10 or 15 passes in the entire game, I'm buying it, sure. But there's no way that's going to happen, not in an NFL game. And anytime you have Michael Thomas on a football field, I don't care who is the quarterback. I think sometimes we forget that these guys are good. Like, we were just talking about Gardner Minshew, and I know Jim was, tongue-in-cheek, half joking, but
I'm not.
The point, my point was, though, like, guys look at it, he's a 6th-round pick, and blah, blah, blah. This guy is has talent. Like, the number of positions that exist in the NFL, like Teddy Bridgewater wouldn't be on an NFL roster if he couldn't come in and find an open Mike Thomas. Same with Taysom Hill, and I know he's used more in a different role than a traditional quarterback, but he was a college quarterback. Like, he could throw the ball. Like, these guys would not exist in the NFL at that position. Scott Frost was a quarterback in college and had to switch to safety because he couldn't play the position. They wouldn't roster him as a quarterback if he could not throw and come in. So Michael Thomas is arguably the best wide receiver in the league. You do not bench that guy because you're fearful of the quarterback. I just don't think you could do that.
I'm with you. I'm not. I still have him. I have him down, but I still have him at number 11 this week. So yeah, I'm definitely starting him. Out of this bunch, I do believe, I'm trying to double check now. I do believe that. Oh man, what do I have here? I'm trying to see where I have Edelman. Out of this bunch, I actually have Fitz lowest, but not by much. I have Brown at 27, at Fitz at 28. And, probably I have Brown just ahead of Fitz because he's going against Kansas City. I expect him to have to throw. I'll tell you what, that's the one thing I got wrong coming into the season is I just did not realize how good Lamar Jackson is as a thrower in the pocket. In the pocket is his strength, and he's good in the pocket. Getting outside the pocket is where he starts to show some of those other tendencies. But if you give him a clean pocket, that he can do what he needs to do. He's a good thrower that way. And we just didn't see a lot of that last year because he was just off and running almost every time. So I was definitely wrong on that one. And he looks good throwing to Brown. Brown's making some big plays. I think I would have to sit Fitz here out of these four. I can't sit Michael Thomas. I think I would have to sit Fitz. I don't love it, but I would have to do it.
Right.
Let's see. Who else we got here? Okay, come on. Well, we may be at the end. I'm trying to find this.
So, are we going 120 minutes or
no? I think we're done. We're all caught up. So we got all the questions. Thank you everybody for coming to listen to us. I want to thank Jon for coming and joining us tonight. So, Jon, why don't you tell everybody again where they can find you, how they can find you, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. So much fun doing this. Thanks for having me on. On Twitter, I am at JCW Helmcamp. I'm up on my rush rating articles up on Expand the Box Score over with, you can find a lot of that information over on Andy's Twitter handle as well. Twitter, hit me up anytime. Any questions you have, happy to dive into it.
Well, cool. Thanks for joining us. Andy, tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, yeah, listen, I'll just back everything up. I wanted Jon to come on because I think he needs a little bit more exposure and a larger audience and should be getting some more followers because what he's doing and trying to dissect running backs it's not groundbreaking. It's not revolutionary, but it is needed. It is necessary, and it's answering a thirst that we have for football. So, and I don't mean to demean it. I'm sorry by saying it's not revolutionary or groundbreaking. It is in its own right. It's just
your old man throwing you under the bus there.
And I didn't mean it in that way at all. I apologize, but I'm happy. I'm happy to have him on. Seriously, go check out his work. Even Jim, my own co-host here, was under the guise that our content was behind a paywall. It's not. Our data is behind a paywall. If you want the advanced stats, and even that is only $15 for a full year. Right. So it's not even it's priced to fit your budget, and the only reason we have a price tag on it at all is to be able to put into the work and have graphics guys and have resources to get the word out there and pay for the website hosting and all that kind of stuff. It's not, we're not getting rich off of this. So all that being said, the content is free. Jon's rush rating. I just broke down Ty Johnson this week. So good article up there. Demarcus Robinson was profiled as well. We have college basketball. Every sport is covered. My rankings are up there. On Tuesday, Jim, I was 10th through 2 weeks on Fantasy Pros. And on Thursday, I was 13th. So I don't know what happened, but I'm still top 15 somewhere in there.
How did you go from 10th to 13th from a Monday to a Thursday?
I don't know that. I thought they released it a little early on Tuesday anyway, but I'm 11.5 right now. So I'm ranked 11.5 this week. So go check out those, and just literally the best thing to do is just follow me on Twitter if you haven't already unfollowed me today for some of my other comments. But follow me on Twitter because
don't hold it against him that he loves Trump. Don't do that.
All my links are up there. Everything I do, I shamelessly plug. So there you go.
Yes, he does. And I don't know. Maybe we should start incorporating a new rush rating segment in the show. Bring Jon on, or if Jon can't come on, maybe you can bring some of his goodness to the show, and we could discuss some running backs based on Jon's rush rating.
Whatever you want to do, I'm game. I would love that.
I have no problem with that. I like stuff like this. Again, I'm not the biggest stat guy, but if you can prove to me that it's something that's useful to help me devise a plan, then I'm all for it. I have no problem with that. But when you start talking about breakout age, go away. Air yards, go away.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to drop a link to his latest article in the comments right now for anybody that's still listening and might want to check it out, yourself included.
If there's anybody still left to say at this hour, there's still 11 people watching. Those diehards, I gotta love it. If they're up on a Friday night listening to us talk, then these are our diehards. So kudos to all of you for hanging out with us and listening to the show. We appreciate it. Of course, I am Jim Day. You can follow me on Twitter at FantasyTaz, which you all know. Hopefully the people listening now know. I run ffchamps.com with Bill Enright. I am the director of the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network, which this podcast is on. And I do shows everywhere. Basically 7 days of the week, I'm on something. Now on Saturdays, I've taken to doing a radio show down in Tampa Bay every Saturday afternoon. So just a new little hitch in the giddy up there. So, check us out. Come out and join us. If you're listening, please give us a comment, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, a rating, whatever you can do. We would greatly appreciate it. All of those things really do add up when it comes to the sites we're on and how they evaluate the shows and how they promote those shows. So the more of any of that we get, the better off it is for us. If you want to see us hanging around, that's the easiest thing you can do to help us. So thank you, everybody, and we appreciate you hanging out for us. This has been another edition of the Fantasy Football Champs After Dark, and we will be back next Friday. Good luck in week 3, everybody. Have a good night.